Nobody should have to go through this at one of the worst times of your life, to have somebody be this way.
Two local families still grieving describe troubling interactions with the Cape Girardeau County coroner.
At no time did I get a feeling like he was trying to find out what was going on, like he was listening to what we were saying.
Tonight, we take a closer look at the actions of Cape County's highest elected official.
Good evening, everyone. The county coroner is a position that holds a great deal of power. The coroner is the only one who can arrest a sheriff and the only one who can call for a death investigation.
Wavis Jordan became Cape Girardeau County coroner in January 2021. Jordan won a three-way Republican primary in August 2020 with 39% of the vote.
Right now, the Missouri Attorney General's office is deciding whether Jordan will face a misdemeanor stealing charge connected to money missing from a deceased person during a welfare check back in April. Jordan tells us exclusively he did not do it.
But as that process continues, we have learned about several complaints leveled against Jordan involving his behavior with grieving families, his handling of bodies, and the way he runs his office. And we've done our own digging. Tonight, we take an in-depth look at those concerns, beginning with a Cape Girardeau woman who lost her husband less than a month ago.
In my case, it was a real battle with fear, and fear is epitomized by chickens, and so here I am in a chicken suit.
Kevin Hand tackled colon cancer in his own very unique way as the cancer chicken.
Kevin was a showman. He was a comedian. He loved being in front of people. It went beyond just the cancer chicken. It was more about, just doing good works for people.
On September 8th, Joni believes Kevin collapsed while training for his next race.
Well, he had called me about a half an hour before I realized something was wrong, and he was fine.
She called 911 and learned a crew had already been dispatched to the Cape LaCroix Trail. Hand says she expected a call back from police with an update, but the next call she received came from Cape Girardeau County coroner Wavis Jordan.
He didn't identify himself as the coroner. I didn't recognize his name. I didn't know who he was.
And what did he say?
He was looking for my house, and he was lost. I thought he was from the police department to give me some information about Kevin.
Hand says she met Wavis Jordan out in the street. He approached her with a handful of papers and asked her name.
I said, yeah, I'm Joni Hand. And without even blinking, he said, I'm sorry to tell you, but your husband has passed away. Didn't identify himself as the coroner, nothing. And I still don't even know what happened in those moments. And he was staring at me, and he said, did you hear what I said?
He repeated the news again, Hand says. She asked to see her husband.
And he told me, you can't see him until you choose a funeral home. And then he started to talk to me about the different options that I had, who was the cheapest, who was the best, and he had literature that he was showing me. As I'm standing in the middle of the street, 2 seconds earlier, having heard that my husband had died. There was no empathy, there was no sympathy, there was nothing. Just talking about it makes me nauseous. It was just horrific.
Concerns about Wavis Jordan's behavior are echoed in several complaints we found contained in these documents, sent to us by the Cape County Commission, County Clerk, and Prosecuting Attorney through a Missouri Sunshine Law request. Longtime ER nurse Tara Oftenberg sent a complaint to the County Commission in early July.
Coroner Jordan's behavior was just so unprofessional. I just didn't know what to do with it.
Oftenberg wrote this email just days after she witnessed Jordan's interaction with her close friends Dan and Robin Rose the night they lost their 24-year-old daughter.
Scarlett was quite a unique young lady. She was born with cerebral palsy, and despite obstacles that come along with having, CP, she never let anything get in her way, never.
Dan Rose takes me back to that painful night. They found Scarlett unconscious, started CPR, called 911. He recalls a house full of first responders when Coroner Wavis Jordan arrived and asked to speak with him outside.
And he asked me, he said, so tell me about your daughter's disease. And I said, it's not, let me correct you, I said, it's not a disease. Cerebral palsy is a condition, and it's not something that progresses typically.
Rose says he spent 10 to 15 minutes explaining Scarlett's condition to Jordan.
So when I was done, he went right back to his original point. He said, so explain to me again how the disease works. So 3 times, Kathy, I had to correct him that it's not a disease, it's CP.
Back inside, both Rose and Oftenberg say Jordan then began asking a series of questions they did not expect.
You know, would she be embalmed, or would we want to have her cremated? Things that really wasn't his place to ask.
He told Robin that they were going to put Scarlett in a bag and zip it up. Why would you say that to a parent who just lost their child?
Rose also had concerns about Jordan's comments regarding Scarlett's possible cause of death.
So Coroner Jordan would stand there and have a verbal debate with himself. It wasn't like he was talking to us, trying to decide whether he felt like it was this or that. Did she choke to death, or was it a heart issue? And all of this with very little knowledge that I could see demonstrated.
Rose says he did appreciate Jordan agreeing that night to call Scarlett's doctors so he could learn more about her condition. But Rose tells me he later learned those calls never happened.
What happens the next time he runs into another scenario where that person may have cerebral palsy? Will he be any more knowledgeable the second time than he was the first? I can't say yes, because he didn't seek to understand.
Another incident involving Coroner Jordan reported to the County Commission involved a 90-year-old Cape Girardeau woman named Annie Pruitt. Pruitt died in her home on July 22nd, but her body remained in the coroner's custody until mid-September.
The Pruitt case came to the County Commission's attention on August 24th, when an employee from Crane Funeral Home questioned why Wavis Jordan wanted Miss Pruitt's case handled as an indigent cremation. That happens when someone dies with no immediate family or assets and could qualify for a cremation paid for by the county. She gave commissioners these 3 documents faxed over to Crane by the coroner's office on August 11th. The first contains wrong information about Annie Pruitt's birth and death dates. The second shows Pruitt had a daughter who signed over the rights to her mother's body. But the third indicates Pruitt had no family. I spoke to Crane Funeral Home owner Brian Crane. He tells me despite the confusion, his team got to work. They knew Miss Pruitt had a home and would not qualify, he says, as indigent. Crane tells me they learned Pruitt's daughter had since passed away, but found a distant relative. At the same time, emails between the coroner and commissioners showed Jordan still considered Miss Pruitt an indigent case. On September 8th, this email indicates the coroner reached out to a second funeral home, Ford & Sons, to have her handled as indigent. Ultimately, Annie Pruitt's distant relative agreed to have Crane Funeral Home handle her cremation. Her estate would cover the cost. That happened on September 18th. When I asked Brian Crane if Miss Pruitt's case was handled correctly by the coroner's office, he told me it certainly was not.
Kevin was a great person. Everybody, that knew him knew that.
She was just a blessing, and we miss her every day.
Both Joni Hand and Dan Rose did not find it easy to speak publicly about their interactions with the Cape Girardeau County Coroner, but both felt they should.
My hope is that, that something changes so that somebody that is more suited for that position, both with their credentials and their disposition, can, take that position, because right now it's just not working.
Mr. Jordan was polite, he was kind, he attempted to show empathy, but there were other core competencies that I think anyone would expect a professional to have, and he just did not demonstrate those to us that night.
We reached out to Coroner Wavis Jordan to share the concerns we just laid out to you, and he agreed to speak to us about our report and how he feels he's served Cape Girardeau County since his term began.
I feel like I have done the job since I've been in office. I've been in office over 2 years now. And like I said, I go about what the statute tells me. And, I ask proper questions what need to be appropriate, for as, what was the cause of death and all that. That's just part of the coroner's job, and I felt like I have done that since I've been the Cape County coroner.
Coming up tonight at 10, our First Alert investigation continues with this exclusive interview. Coroner Jordan addresses concerns raised about his behavior. He also answers questions regarding his qualifications, his future, and that potential misdemeanor stealing charge against him being reviewed by the Missouri Attorney General.